The idea for this video came from a quote I read in early 20th century psychoanalyst Carl Jung's autobiography, titled Memories, Dreams, Reflections. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. If a man knows more than others, he becomes lonely. But loneliness is not necessarily inimical to companionship, for no one is more sensitive to companionship than the lonely man, and companionship thrives only when each individual remembers his individuality and does not identify himself with others. The quote itself is long, but it made me think about a really simple idea. If loneliness comes from being unable to communicate things that are important to oneself, then maybe we can overcome loneliness by using creativity. If we think about creative works or any form of creative expression, they're essentially representations of ourselves. At first, they're represented by our thoughts and our ideas, our inner potential, and once we allow them to exist outside of ourselves, they become physical artifacts or qualities of our identity. And so by extension, they affirm our individuality for the fact that they originate from within ourselves. Let's go back to the beginning of the quote. Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself. By allowing these things to exist outside of ourselves, we establish them as important to us. So if that's the case, then can we simply overcome lonely feelings by creating things or expressing ourselves in ways that affirm our identity? I thought about this for a while. Maybe we can just stop that thought there, because it might just be enough to create the things or communicate the things that seem important to ourselves, where we establish this kind of self-sufficient independence for our beliefs that isn't dependent on the validation of others. But even with that said, it's still a fact that humans are social and we generally want to share with other people. I mean, think about what show and tell means for a kid, for example. It must be the most exciting thing to just share something that's important to them and get a response from others for the fact that they are sharing it. And in a similar way, we can feel great from sharing the things we create or our ways of self-expression with others. This brings me to the last part of that quote. But loneliness is not necessarily inimical to companionship, for no one is more sensitive to companionship than the lonely man, and companionship thrives only when each individual remembers his individuality and does not identify himself with others. If we put ourselves out there, we can use our creativity to bridge any sort of disconnect between ourselves and others. Our creativity is our individuality, and it can help us find other people like us. We might even learn something new from seeing their creative sides, and it may inspire us to further develop our own creativity. It can feel good to just create, to express ourselves in ways that are affirming, even if it's only for ourselves. But it can also be a fulfilling experience if we're able to share that feeling with others. Maybe if we are feeling lonely, we can use our creativity to deal with these feelings in a very healthy way, whether that is in the presence of other people or in the comfort of solitude.